Welcome and namaste, everyone. Welcome to episode 10, chapter 13 of the invitation, based on chapters 11 and 12, where we did an interpretation of Penelope's name so she could see some of the greater characteristics that she had of consciousness of God, whatever term you want to use. In this particular chapter, 13, she takes those interpretations to heart and takes a good hard look at herself as we close this book with the last chapter. Just want to say that following this chapter, the cast of characters follows this chapter, in which their meaning as characterizations or stereotypes are also presented. You can get a copy of the book to do that, or borrow somebody's copy. To read them would be a bit arduous, I would think, so I'll just leave it at that. But I wanted you to know that that was the case. It may even encourage you to take a look at your own name and see what stereotype you fit out of the overall realm of consciousness. Okay, chapter 13, The Truth and Nothing But. Upon returning home, Penelope picks up the invitation and rereads it even more carefully than before, especially given the context of the evening. Given what she has just put herself through, she perceives it very differently now. The invitation takes on metaphorical mediation and says that she issues her own invitation and to her own calling. It is Penelope's divinity that calls her, she realizes, divinity that invites her back again and again and again to the truth of her being. In a series of flashes of brilliance, she suddenly realizes that whenever she feels out of sorts, or ill at ease, or diseased, she feels dissonance. This is the clue that she has placed herself in ego consciousness, and that this misfit between illusion and truth is to be resolved here and now. Instead of wallowing in the illusion of what she is not, Penelope sees that it's illusion that calls her to return to full awareness of what she really is. Penelope sees this uncomfortable feeling as a calling to loving activation, for when she is in that place of dissonance, it is a sure sign of spiritual stagnation. Other names for it are depression, disorientation, and a sense of purposelessness. On it goes, for ego consciousness calls for naming and labeling things so as to hide consciousness behind each. From what she has experienced, she discerns that when juxtaposed with the truth of her being, this is a sure clue about the incongruity of any situation. Simply put, Penelope understands that she has no name at all, save the truth of her essence. There is only the known, the full meaning of what she is, and now she knows what that is. Only she knows the answer for her, and no one can live it for her. Knowing where it is she can find herself, with a capital S on self, she will have seen the face of consciousness personified. In her newfound state, she comes to understand that trying to name God or describing what God or consciousness is similar to labeling one's age. That the enlightened outlook towards age is that you are every age and no age at all. The only time you have a clue about age, physically that is when you look into the mirror. Exercising your ageless nature, the eternal being each of us is, can be contained only in the feeling, the resonance of agelessness. There is no explanation for it, and thus what is erroneously called and attributed to age has no reality of time or description attached to it whatsoever. The same is true about consciousness, rings true to Penelope in the sweetness of the moment. Therefore, Penelope realizes that she really is nameless if she looks out into the sphere or mirror of life she created in this domain. Nevertheless, or should it be said therefore, in her nameless state of being she now comprehends that she is spiritual reality, expressing that only as she can in the fullness of loving creation. Suddenly, Penelope makes a spiritual shift and begins having a different kind of conversation with herself. In spiritual terms, this is what defines me as royalty, she declares. Divinity is that, royalty. In a spiritual sense, there are no such labels, only the royalty of dynamic, loving presence continually expressed. This is my only business and my only purpose. Only I don't have to do anything about it. I only have to be aware of and demonstrate my purpose, Penelope concludes astutely. Looking into the mirror of life, Penelope has more revelations. She continues with this. In this sense, there are no labels that fit my return to full awareness of my divinity. Spiritually speaking, neither the most heinous nor the most loving acts have any valence or value attached to them. Therefore, no judgment is required about them. To paraphrase Shakespeare, nothing is either right or wrong, good or bad. Only thinking makes it so. He was almost accurate in his reflection, I would say. In this form, spiritually, it points to the absolute truth of his conclusion. Only ego consciousness makes it so. In spiritual terms, however, there is only the illusion of any act being real. So being unreal, she hears herself conclude for now, there is no need for some kind of value or judgment to be placed on anything. That leaves only truth and love to be expressed. Waiting for still more to surface, Penelope then hears this. As a spiritual being, I know that my primary purpose is to stay in the fullness of spiritual awareness. By my example, others are led to find whatever they need to return to their own fullness of awareness. Formerly, I saw ego consciousness as that which clouds another from this truth, as but the dramatic, theatrical portrayal on a stage he uses for modifying his outlook to match his inner landscape. But I now understand that once aware of it, it is dissonance that pretty much automatically heads him back home to the seat of his divinity. So looking at this invitation, much like I have come to view the multivarious invitations my high self issues, I now know that each is a call for me to return home, to be at home with what I am. Once I have resonated with myself as truth, I no longer need an invitation or a calling. I'm already at home, matter of fact, am home, needing neither a name nor an alternate form to prove what I'm not. When functioning out of my ego consciousness, I falsely think I have a choice to either accept or deny an invitation. In contrast, when functioning out of full awareness, all there is to do is to surrender to the call. Ultimately, there is no choice as to whether I should follow the call made to me or not. Truth commands only obedience, surrender, not choice. What about the formal dress I'm wearing as if dining with royalty? Penelope inquires within. What's the meaning to be found in this imagery, she wonders. Instantaneously, she hears, in my ego consciousness form, the dress or clothes I wear cover the illusory images of belief and dedicated thoughts I worship. They're mere disguises that warp my view of life. Without such imagery, however, I wouldn't know that I am off base in my depiction of life. Each such depiction serves as but a mirror, reflecting back what is needed for discernment of truth. In reality, I stand naked before God, as we all do. Thus, when beckoned to dress formally, as if dining with royalty, I've been led to the meaning that I'm to stand naked before the truth of my being, that I'm to reframe my current view. Indeed, spiritually speaking, royalty has spoken and been tended to. Penelope wonders. What is it that has asked these questions? Who is it that has rendered this truth for me? Looking in the mirror, Penelope sees from the window of her nakedness what she really is, not from what she had made herself out to be prior to this. Using intuition, which leads her to the insight and enlightenment, she transcends illusion to the inner meaning found only there. Finally, she has considered the source and has truly risen above it. Now she really knows. There is only the divine, spiritual consciousness, not the divine and all the rest, just divine. Penelope stands there before life's mirror, breathless. A chill runs up her spine. Her mind becomes fully to peace, and her heart brims with joy. For the very first time, she sees the real Penelope, not who she has erroneously named Penelope, but her true, inward, nameless self. Such beauty the earth has not seen. Nameless, she declares to herself. I am that. I am beauty. I am divine. And that's all there is to it. I'm sure glad I accepted the invitation to life itself. Well, there we are, folks. Brings us to the end of this wonderful book, The Invitation. As I said earlier, what follows this is a description of each person who Penelope brought in as the characterizations of various aspects of what life is about. You may find some interesting things here that will perhaps take you into your own, which would be fun, actually, I think. I'm going to close not with a post from somewhere on the internet, but rather where I began this book, with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson from his piece, Self-Reliance. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen, philosophers, and divines. With consistency, a great soul has simply nothing to do. Speak what you think now in hard words, and tomorrow speak what tomorrow thinks in hard words again, though it contradicts everything you said today. So you shall be sure to be misunderstood? Is it so bad, then, to be misunderstood? Pythagoras was misunderstood, and Socrates, and Jesus, and Luther, and Newton, and every pure and wise spirit that ever took flesh. Indeed, to be great is to be misunderstood. And so as I close this podcast about the invitation, I invite you to allow yourself to be misunderstood. Follow your intuition day by day, and that alone. Follow not ego consciousness. You're going to be misunderstood either way, so why not be misunderstood for the truth of your being rather than with what is not of your being? So, my friends, until next time, allow yourself to be misunderstood. I hope you are well and safe, and I hope that you understand the divine love being you are. Be that and only that. Namaste, my friends. I love you.